quiet village, there lived a man named Jonah. To outsiders, Jonah appeared bold, handsome, and wealthy. He dressed well, spoke confidently, and charmed both men and women with his smooth tongue. Yet behind that charming smile was a cruel heart that few suspected. Grace, a kind and gentle woman, was recently widowed. Life had been hard since her husband's death, and she struggled to care for her teenage daughter Mara. When Jonah showed interest in her, Grace saw him as a blessing. Though she noticed a certain hardness in his eyes, she told herself it was nothing. She needed security. She needed a man who could provide. So, despite her daughter's unease, she married him. At the time of the marriage, Mara was 17, intelligent, vibrant, and cautious. Jonah never liked her. She reminded him that Grace had a life before him, and he resented it. But Jonah was clever. He did not show his dislike openly. Instead, he began pretending to care for her. He brought Mara gifts, new shoes, fine dresses, even packets of expensive underwear. Grace was overjoyed, clapping her hands at what she believed was a show of fatherly love. "My husband is a good man," she told neighbors proudly. Mara, however, felt uneasy. She knew in her bones that Jonah's gestures were not genuine. For a while, life seemed peaceful, but it was a false peace. Jonah's wickedness began to creep into their lives like a shadow. He barked orders at Mara, demanding she serve him his meals, wash his clothes, and clean the compound. He criticized her constantly and watched her too closely. Mara tried to confide in her mother. "Mama, Jonah looks at me strangely." "He makes me uncomfortable." Grace hushed her quickly, afraid to lose the man who put food on the table. "Stop talking nonsense," she said. "Your stepfather is only trying to love you." But Mara knew the truth. Jonah did not love her. He was hunting her. One afternoon, when Grace had gone to the market, Jonah walked into Grace's room without knocking. Mara was sitting on the bed, reading her school book. She looked up in shock. "Why didn't you knock?" she asked. Jonah smirked. "This is my house. I don't need to knock." He stepped closer, his eyes dark. "Mara, you've grown into a beautiful young woman." Mara's heart pounded. Before he could finish his words, she sprang from the bed, bolted past him, and fled the house. She ran into the compound of a neighbor, gasping for breath, her body trembling. The neighbor tried to ask what was wrong, but Mara shook her head, too frightened to speak. That night, Mara told her mother what happened. Grace's hands trembled as she listened, her eyes wide with fear. For a moment, Mara thought her mother might finally believe her. But when Jonah entered the room and stood silently in the doorway, Grace's fear overpowered her love for her child. "Stop lying, Mara," she shouted, slapping her daughter across the face. "Do you want to ruin my marriage?" Mara's heart shattered. The only person who should have protected her had chosen silence. Jonah leaned against the doorframe, smiling triumphantly. From that day, Jonah grew bolder. He cornered Mara in hallways, left strange notes on her bed, and whispered threats in her ear when no one was around. "If you tell anyone," he hissed, "you'll regret it." Mara's life became unbearable. She stopped laughing. She stopped eating. Her schoolwork suffered. Teachers noticed the change, and finally, Mara broke down and confided in her school principal. The principal, a man of integrity and courage, listened quietly as Mara poured out her story, trembling and tearful. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did well to speak up," he said. He called Grace and Jonah into his office. "Jonah," he said sternly, "if you ever harm this girl again, you will answer to the law. I will not stay silent. Jonah's eyes burned with fury. You dare threaten me? You'll pay for this. Grace sat silently, torn between fear of Jonah and love for her daughter. But silence only emboldened evil. The principal wasted no time. He reported the matter to the police. An investigation began. Neighbours began to whisper about what they had seen. Mara's frightened eyes, Jonah's strange behaviour, the gifts that seemed too intimate for a stepfather to give. Slowly, the truth emerged. One evening, police officers stormed Jonah's compound. Jonah, you are under arrest, one declared, snapping handcuffs around his wrists. Jonah struggled, shouting, You can't touch me. I'm untouchable. But the law had caught up with him. In court, Mara testified with trembling courage. The principal spoke boldly. Neighbours confirmed suspicions they had long ignored. Jonah's charm crumbled, and his cruelty was laid bare for all to see. The judge's gavel fell. Jonah was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Grace wept bitterly, realizing too late how her silence had enabled evil. She begged her daughter's forgiveness, but Mara turned.